Parenting children with special needs can be very challenging, especially when one is an immigrant and not familiar with the healthcare system, where resources are available, and how to get help. For those of us who do not have children with special needs, it can even be more challenging and more confusing as to how we can relate to this target group. We meet two brave parents who share their experiences with us. It's passion for difference, yeah.
Giving knowledge, building. When I talk to her stöttekontakt or anything like that, I think it's really important that people can meet her on her level. So even though she's 17, she has a communication skill of around 3-4 years old. You know what I mean? So it's important for others that are around her to understand that. Teachers, again, other people that are with her. I've also dealt with BIP. I feel like I personally, when I first came to Norway and was trying to find for, there were so many different aspects through the hospital, whether it was genetic testing, neurology, HABU, but you name it. There's so many different levels to it, and I didn't kind of know where to navigate and which help I could get. Also with orthopedics, I didn't know. So I ended up coming in contact with a woman from Förvaltningsenhet, which I was very lucky with. And it's a person that can follow her through school and write down the goals that they have and where she is and kind of go from there. That's when I learned that she has rights, having a Norwegian person number and her mother being me being half Norwegian, that she had rights to a taxi to school, to extra help, to a stöttekontakt, somebody that can take her and do things with her if we were at work. So we've been doing this for 17 years. We've learned a lot. There's been a lot of people in and out, doctors, things like that, that have been helpful and that also have kind of not been very helpful. But I think you kind of see all aspects of it when you bounce around from so many different enheter to try to get an answer for one child. So she has a rare genetic disorder, which is called MED13L syndrome. Slight facial features, but not to the extreme where if you saw her, you wouldn't really know that she's disabled. But she does have certain facial features that are with this syndrome that if you know about it, you know, okay, that's that. It is a very rare genetic disorder. I'm in a Facebook group. I think there's about maybe 300 people in that group from all over the world, where I'm still learning to this day about how other kids develop, because my daughter can't read or write or tell me what time it is, but other kids that have it are able to read. Some kids have heart conditions. Thank God mine does not, but it's not like Downs, for example, where, you know what I mean? It's kind of in a nutshell. This is kind of, there's so much that we don't know about this particular syndrome. Everything from hypermobile joints to she had a hjernesvulst, a brain tumor, that we had to go in for MRIs every 6 months for to check. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But I could go on for hours
No
about
worries. Yeah.
everything. So it's just ask away or yes.
Just
Yeah.
before we go on, I wanted to find out how was it before you got the diagnosis? You said you had to go to US to get it. Was it like um
What's
difficult?
funny is that it's not funny, but we went since she was born here in Norway, we started realizing at about 6 months that she wasn't reaching her milestones like she was supposed to. And then I started with physical therapy here in Norway. It wasn't until she was 3 years old that we decided, because Haukeland couldn't find out what at that point what was going on. They just told me that they had seen something on the brain scan that they haven't seen in a child her age. So my husband and I, being from around Baltimore, Maryland, were like, well, let's take her to Johns Hopkins Hospital. It's a pretty known hospital. Let's go there. And that's when we started with the genetic testing. We went through speech therapy. We're debating sign language, physical therapy. It was a lot of different things. Like, she was also born cross-eyed. We had to get eye operations. We didn't know how to handle it. We just knew that there was something there that we needed to fix, or to try to fix, to help her out. It was difficult, as I think as she got older, and we realized that it was something more than just a physical, like hypermobile joints, or a brain tumor, or it was something else. And that's when we decided to move back to Norway, and try again. And that's when she was 10 years old when we found out about her diagnosis. And I think for my husband, it was difficult for him to not really accept it, but he's like, she's Kayla. She's going to be Kayla. Just let her be Kayla. You know what I mean? And still to this day, him and I have discussions where I just got a report back from Habu today that had put her at a, say, for example, her problem solving skills. She's at around of an age of 6, 7 years old. Her communication skills and understanding what people are saying to her is below 3 years old. So it's such a very wide range. And my husband's like, if he can't understand, he's like, Kayla, why are you, mixing Norwegian and English? Like, but like, it's not that he's harsh. I think it's just for him, it's hard for that realization that she's really that low on the scale, where I'm like, okay, she's that low on the scale. So what do we need to do as parents to meet her there? And that's where I tried to go through. I've been to Barne- og Familiehjelpen to try to help deal with a lot of utfordringer that we have now. She's 17 in her body, and teenagers want boyfriends, and she wants to drive a car, and she wants to have a baby. And I'm like, how do I meet her at that communication level that might not happen, So I think as a mother, it's really hard, because you don't want to not give them hope, but you also want to be realistic with them. So she's like, well, I want a car for my birthday. And I'm like, but honey, before you get a car, you have to learn how to read. We have to work on reading, so I try to meet her at that level. And I think that it's great, but I also think that it's difficult. She doesn't understand. Well, she'll ask me the same question 5, 6 times and still doesn't understand my answer.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Frimpong, Pacho, mo mute mo. Why?
Okay.
Yes.
so
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
no, it's okay. So yeah, I think that, just this is something that we're going to deal with. She went from being lätt utvecklingshämmat to moderat, and then the next step from that is alvorlig. I don't think that she's going to get to that alvorlig point. She can walk. She's not in a wheelchair. But she's going to stay at that moderat level. So knowing that she'll never get to that next level is sad. And again, also with this type of syndrome that she has, I think in the group that I was in, the oldest one in the group recently passed away, and she was 31. So we also don't know the longevity of their life with this particular syndrome.
Yes, if I'm allowed,
Yeah.
you mentioned something that, and I'm interested how you started it, because it draws light on some challenge that people may be facing, but could not know how to go about it. because you mentioned that they saw a scan, they saw something with the brain, right? And Herculan could not really, figure out so much. Fortunately for you, perhaps there has been means to be able to go to Johns Hopkins, hospital for further diagnosis. And so what happens to parents who are living here, immigrants, in the case of, going to hospital and being told about this information and do not have the means, and cannot travel to the US, can't even buy a ticket or, but what do you think?
I think the most important thing is to push, to really, really push, because I realized that waiting for that phone call and being quiet doesn't really get you anywhere. And it sucks. And I also, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the health system in a general, because I got really frustrated with the doctors at Haukeland.
What do you mean?
Huh?
I don't baby there. Please mute.
So
I'm so sorry, please.
no, that's
It's
okay.
okay.
No. I have like I said, a love-hate relationship with the healthcare system in general, because I believe that everything that you need to heal your body is on this planet. I don't believe in when I come in with my daughter Kayla and she's been complaining of stomach pains. We've been in and out of gastro. We've been in and out of ernæring, nutritionist. And they're like, well, have you given her Paracet? And I'm like, no, I haven't. I don't keep that in my house. I want to know why she's in pain. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on her problem. I want to know why she's in pain. So I said, I'm not leaving until they give her a scan on her stomach, an ultrasound on her stomach. And I think that it's really frustrating for me, because time and time again, when we go to the doctors or something like that, it's, well, have you taken the pill? Have you taken this? So what I did, unfortunately, and not everybody has the means to do this, but I actually said, screw Hokelon. And I took Kayla to a homeopathic doctor, actually, which deals in all natural remedies, everything from toad poison that you give your child, which sounds really weird, for all different types of issues. And when I started that, I didn't hear any more complaints about her stomach hurting. So I think that pushing, and I think that and standing for what you believe in, and if you feel in your heart that or your stomach that there's something that's not right, then I would go to the next doctor. And I wouldn't stop until I was okay with the answer that I got.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think we'll come back to you, but it's interesting when you mention homeopathy, right? Because back home where I'm from, there's so much talk about using homeopathy, and people think it's just, one of those things, and they don't pay attention to it. And here you are saying that it works.
But
So
people look at me crazy because I put onions in my kids' socks when they're sick. I don't give them cough medicine. I don't try to suppress the symptom. You know what I mean? I try to let it come out naturally. And I think that in the medicine world, they learn a certain way of how to, and don't get me wrong, there's many brilliant doctors out there, but they learn how to put a Band-Aid on the problem and not find the root cause of the problem. And I think that's a huge problem that we have in today's society and all over the world when it comes to healthcare.
we'll come back to you, but we'll give the opportunity to Eliana to also tell us something, and then we can ask questions in between that.
Okay. So we moved here when Alicia was 7, so a lot of her diagnostics were originally done in the US. And she is severely disabled. She's at about a 3-month old utvecklingsnivå development level. And she has epilepsy. She has very, very low muscle tone. So she needs full support. She can't roll. She can only lie or sit with full support. She can't speak. She's eating just through a feeding tube. And so you wanted to hear how like the diagnosis process went, which she doesn't have actually a diagnosis yet. So yeah, that can be very, very frustrating, of course. When she was about 3 months is when we really started to question. Probably should have been questioned much sooner than that. But I didn't have like a lot of experience with newborns, and she's my only child. So I just assumed babies, they just lie there like babies, And I remember she was 3 months, we were going in for her just follow-up at the doctor's, and I looked over and someone else was like holding their kid like to help them stand on their knees. And I asked them, oh, how old are they? And they said 3 months. And I was like, okay, well, that's, yeah. So it was around 3 months where they started to investigate. And then around 5 months, she started to get seizures. And so she started to get like 20 to 30 a day. And she has not changed very much developmentally since then. One thing I will say is that a lot of the things that ended up working out for her, I still had to figure that out. Like the type of epilepsy treatment that she ended up getting when she was around 7 months or so, which took it down from like 20 a day, 20, 30 to like 5 or 7, which is where she's still at now. Well, actually it's a little bit better now, but that was a hormone treatment. I was just looking them up, and I had to tell the doctor, maybe we should try this hormone treatment out, and then they were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So it is a fact that you have to know your own kid, and you have to still do your own research. Even when dealing with a neurologist, they have epilepsy is so complicated. There's so many different types. So it does help to do your own research. And so she ended up going on a ketogenic diet actually here. And that helped to bring down the severity of her seizure activity. And that was also me going to the doctor and saying, hey, should we try this ketogenic diet? And, and then fortunately we were able to get that done. They have an epilepsy center in Oslo where we have to travel once a year to get follow-up for that. So she does get follow-up from Habu as well. And she gets avlastning respite services for every other week, basically. So she's stays at a facility. And that took a long time for me to start using and to be okay with, and to get up to the amount that where I am currently at. So it's only in like the last year or so that it's been that I pretty much had them double it. And that really, really made a big difference because I'm an only parent as well. So, not great. And
Sorry, can I ask how old she is? How old is she?
oh, she's 16. She's going to be
16. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's actually, I guess, one of my main experiences with her is just that, particularly because she doesn't have a diagnosis. It's still kind of on the parent to do the research for their specific child, and I don't think that that's anything it's just that the bodies are so complicated, you know, that I can't expect a doctor or a nurse to know all of the ins and outs and everything like that. So it's a big mental workload, and it's a big responsibility. But I do feel as though I've gotten good support here. But yeah, so I moved here when she was 7, and I feel like here the respite services in and of themselves are just gold. They're golden. So she goes to a specialized school. It's the only one in Bergen that's fully specialized. And she's about to transfer to high school, and I'm freaking out about that a little bit. Yeah.
Amazing. What keeps coming to my mind is how much effort the parents themselves have to put in the whole process and not rely so much on the health systems to give you either a diagnosis or, to tell you what to do. And that is where most immigrants like myself will struggle because of the cultural differences. Back home, we expect the doctor to tell us they are more authoritative. It's more authoritative medical system. So it's like the doctors will have to come in and, be the proactive partners in this kind of situations. But here, it's like the parents, the mom, the dad has to be the one who is engineering, this kind of processes or trying to find out what is best for their children and even helping the doctors or the medical personnel to assist the child. And that is a bit a bit of a struggle in our communities, as well as not acknowledging or being in denial. Like Charlene was saying, the men tend to be like, no, this is not my child. Just you see the signs at an early stage, 3 months, 4 months, 1 year, the child is not walking or doing some of the things that you expect a normal child to do. And still we are in denial, okay, until you realize that, okay, this is something that you can, get help from. And maybe that is, yeah, it's interesting to learn some of these things.
Yeah. I have a question. And my question is regarding the transitioning. I know for you, Kisha, you mentioned earlier that you were able to get diagnosis from the US before you came here. With your diagnosis, coming here with the diagnosis, how well was it received? How well was this diagnosis received by the hospital? And could you tell what they have done in addition to just, for example, advance the well-being of the child, given the diagnosis? I know in the US, they really follow up with the medication and give a lot of support. But when you came to Norway, or as you live in Norway, with the diagnosis already given, what additional support medically or within the system have you received in order to make sure that your child is living as better as he or she should? Yeah.
So now you can come in when she's done. I see your hand up. So please.
Yeah, but I actually she was being over medicated in the US. So she was on like 5 different epilepsy medications, and now she's down to 2 and the ketogenic diet. So they kept up with what her treatment was, but I got to talk to the neurologist here, and he looked at it and was just like, this is a soup, we don't know what's doing what here. And he was a very good neurologist. So it's always going to depend also on the actual person that you deal with. So then we decided to take it down to the ones we were most sure about. And the problem before was that she would basically sleep all day. Like, okay, she wasn't getting seizures, but she was out of it. She was just completely out of it. So that was a big difference in the approach here has more to do with like looking at their life quality per se, and that has its good sides and bad sides, you know. So like there hasn't been as much of a push to try to find a diagnosis here. Before, she was seeing geneticists pretty regularly, like twice a year or something like that, to try to pin something down, like, okay, has anything changed? You know, let's see if we can figure something out. And here it's more just to do with what her actual function, what's her actual functionality right now, and what can we do about it. When she was younger, she got a lot more physical therapy, but I think that that's would have been the case anyway if I was in the US. They do early intervention over there, and it tapers off as they get older, because they tend to focus their resources on the period of time that's most likely to do the most good. You know, so over here, I've wanted to have like a physical therapy thing that I could also be involved with, and for a while we had that. It was a group anyway, and that was like really, really good to go into a group and we all did our exercises together. And that, yeah, I found that to be very helpful. But I do feel there was a difference in approaches here. And in some ways, I felt like it's more collaborative here. And in other ways, perhaps not as progressive, not as like aggressive. So it's a mix, you know.
That's interesting to hear.
Maybe Charlene would like to add something to it.
Who, me?
Yeah, if you feel any
Yeah,
different.
yeah, sorry, I was trying to respond to it's probably easier to say. I was trying to respond to a message that said, is her disability genetic? And I was just writing, we're not sure. At first, her father and I were also tested and found out that she had gotten one positive of this particular chromosome from her dad, and she didn't get one from me. And then I was like, okay, well, before we have another child, I want to make sure that this isn't genetic and that, you know, it's not going to affect another child, because I don't think that another child should have to go through this. Then we were told that it didn't have to do, it was just random, that it wasn't, you know what I mean? So I was just responding to that message. But I do agree with what she was saying as far as it depends on the person that you get as well when it comes to the medical field, and when it comes to the people that you deal with in the commune. You can be very lucky, like I was, and get someone that says, hey, well, you can do this and you can do this. You know, apply for this. Another thing is she was like, well, you can have weekend avlastning.
Yeah.
And she told me this 6 years ago, and I still have not done it. And then I finally got to a point as a parent where I was doing it because I didn't want Kayla to feel like she was a problem and she had to leave the house when her sister could stay home. That's the way that I looked at it. And then when she kind of turned it around and was like, but she could be on a farm and have a great weekend and get a break from you. And I was like, well, now that you put it like that, okay.
Yeah.
So, but it is also really hard to find, because we're allowed to have 8 hours a week for Kayla to go and do things. But it's really hard because a lot of these people that want to help out are students. So they're studying and then they leave. So she's had like 5 different ones. And I think with 8 hours a week that we can get, I've used 1 hour since December.
Same for that the stöttekontakt, right?
The stöttekontakt. But my person from förvaltningsenhet was like, you know what, Charlene, where are you right now? I was like, I'm actually at a Siki. I'm visiting my grandmother. She's like, I'm coming to you. All you have to do is sign the paper. I'm sending it off for you. We're going to apply for this helgavlastning where she can go on the weekends. And I was like, okay, I just kind of had to swallow it and be like, okay, this will be good for her, you know? But it took me years. It took me so many years. And I think that, again, there's a waiting list, you know? So even though I just applied, she could be waiting for a year before they find a place for her. So I think it does, like you were saying, it does all depend on who you get, whether it comes to the doctors or, the people in the commune, with what kind of help you get. Because again, I had seen probably a dozen doctors before, somebody was like, oh, well, you can do this. And she has the right to a taxi. She's been going to school for I don't know how many years. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know this. So, yeah. So I didn't know these things. And I think that it is really important, like to have groups like this where people can be informed of there is a lot of help out there. And, everybody, no matter who you are living in this country, has the right to this help.
Thank you so much for that. Now you can come in. Your hand was up earlier.
Charlene, I wanted to know if Kayla goes to a regular school or if she goes to a special school.
Kayla, up until this past year, had been going to regular schools, but she was in a special needs class. So she was in a class with other children that were also maybe struggling. And then I applied for her to go to, I wanted her to go to STEND, Vida Laguna, because she loves animals. And they have a great program there for everybody. I got denied STEND, and then I fought. They wanted to send her to Sunsli, which was a restaurant, school. And I was like, Kayla has to be told to wash her hands every time, she goes to the bathroom. I don't think, making food is the best thing for her, not to be mean, but, she can't read and write. And in order to be able to do uppskrifter and make food, you have to know these things. So I fought and I complained, and she finally got into STEND, which was really nice. And even there, I was still fighting. They were like, okay, well, we're just going to put her somewhere. And then next year we'll hold off an extra spot. So that way she's guaranteed a spot for the following year. So it's meeting after meeting after meeting. But again, like I was saying earlier, you really have to fight for what you think is best for your child. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Nobody's going to come to you and say, you should do this. Not always, at least.
Thank you so much. I just want us to come back to, normal life, having, normally I don't call them challenges, being in this situation. I mean, day-to-day life, maybe you can start and then Ileana will add something to it. I mean, how is it like, considering all that you have to do for them, yourself, the other kids in the family, and family life, daily routines? How is it like?
I will tell you that our life, my husband and I, we have been going through a lot. For first of all, ever since Kayla was born, but I have a son who is 21 or 22 now. Sorry, he just had a birthday. Who also lived with us until he was 17. But he had a ruse problem. That was also a challenge. So he was in and out of Barnevern, and trying to deal with his emotions everywhere could trigger Kayla really easily. And trying to calm her and remove her from a situation that was dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, it was really, really challenging. And then we had our youngest daughter, Zoe. She's now 6. So I had an infant, a rusmisbruker, and a child with disabilities living all under the same roof at the same time. Hold on one second. I'm really sorry. Good night. I love you. Sorry.
It's okay.
So that was really, really difficult. And it was really hard for me to explain to Kayla, why the police were coming to my house, or, why it was really, really difficult. Why we had to fly to Trondheim to go visit her brother, or, things like that. So I think daily life, at least for me, I know that they say when you get married that you and your spouse come first and then your children come after.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No.
The preacher told us that before we got married, and that doesn't happen in the real life. I don't think so, at least, because I've completely lost myself. I mean, I'm in trauma therapy now because of things that have happened with my son and with other things and things that I'm dealing with now with Kayla. Daily life now is still a struggle. Like I said, she's 17 and is misusing her phone to reach out to people that she thinks are really who they say they are on Snapchat. I've had to take away her phone. She doesn't understand the dangers of what's really out in the world. And that's also why I reached out to Habu. And that's also why I went to Bona Familia Yalpa, and I went to a course to try to learn, what I should do. And I think being a mom, you forget to take care of yourself. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted. You have nothing else to give. And I think having so much tolerance and so much patience wears down after doing it for so long. And then I got to a point where I was like, if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be any good for my children. And I have to stay good for my children. You know what I mean? So I think that daily life, it is trying. And I still try to work, which I'm reduced. So, I mean, it's tough. It really is. Kayla can call me 11 times from school, to tell me about her day. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to be at school? And I'm at work and I'm like, I can't always answer, so it's a challenge, but I think you kind of get used to living that normalcy, because that to me is normal, to other people, it's not. So, yeah.
It's like I just admire your courage and the strength, and it's enough having one with the challenge, but two and a third who has to also be in that situation. Yeah, just a super mom. That's all I can say.
And I told my son, I said, listen, you know what you're doing and you know it's wrong. These girls can't protect themselves, so it's my job to protect them. So you need to leave. You know what I mean? And having that decision to make is a hard decision. He's my only son. He's my oldest. Him and I have been rocking it since I was 18. I was very young when I had him, so it's just trying to really navigate through the day and take one day at a time and really just be better than my parents were. For the better saying of that. Yes.
Ayana, you want to add something to it? How is it daily basis? You are a single mother?
Yes. In a lot of ways, a lot of the things with Ali are a lot simpler. First of all, I only have her, and she hasn't changed much. So that's just how I know her, and that's how she's gonna be. And she eats through the feeding tube, so that's in some ways not like I don't have to worry about cooking, or something like that. But in it's of course just it only really jars me when I hang out with other parents with their kids, and seeing them run around and everything like that. And she also you gets a taxi and goes to school every day, and at home, it's just a lot of me kind of worrying about, like, oh, is she getting the stimulation that she needs, moving her around because she can't move herself around. She can't play with toys unless I arrange them, and change them out and stuff like that in just a way so that she will incidentally hit it and then, be like, oh, that's a cool, that happened, because her vision is pretty poor. So there's it's more of a mind fuck. Like it's just also in the last 2 years she got really severely sick. She had to be intubated, and that's the third time she's had to be intubated. because she gets these pneumonias. And then we met with the palliative team and decided that if she should get sick again, we won't intubate her. And so she's gotten this kind of sick like every 3 or 4 years. And it could just happen, you know, anytime, like she gets a cold, she gets a seizure, swallows in a little bit, you know, of bad fluid and, you know, fluid in her lungs, and gets pneumonia. And the doctor in the palliative team, I asked, you know, because we don't know what her diagnosis is. So I asked, what do you guys think is going to happen? And they said that, you know, it's usually some sort of infection, some sort of sickness that kind of wears them down over time. And she said, to put it this way, like I don't normally have to transfer children like her to the adult division. So it's just that I don't like, because it's just me and her, you know, and it's been that way, you know, for like 16 years and everything like that. And I have a hard time even I just think of her as my baby, like, and she's been so much the same and everything like that, that I am pre-grieving, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm in a pre-grieving stage. So and it's just every time she gets like a little sniffle or something like that, I like totally freak out and shut down and everything. But I have been able to go to school. I just finished that, so that is good. And I'm looking at coming into working life, which is you know, I'm 37 and I'm just, you know, just now really going to start working. And although I applied for a master's, just so we'll see if I end up doing that, just because it's a little easier before she's 18. Now she's 16. So if I could just go to school until she's 18, then that would be the best, probably. But so it's more of just like there's so much that I wanted her to experience, and she just can't experience practically anything, you know, like so and I, you know, yeah, so it's just the life I thought I would have with her, and having to come to terms with the life that we have, and now having made that life, coming to terms with the fact that that will most likely end fairly soon.
We are really, you know, I'm humbled, you know, to listen, because I have 2 boys and I feel every day is a challenge. I feel like, you know, I'm struggling. It's over my head, and listening to you guys, it makes me feel like, why am I nagging? Why am I whining? You know, I don't have anything to complain about, but it's also interesting to see the strength and how you guys resonate with the situation that you're in, and yeah, how you're dealing with it. It gives us courage, and to, you know, understand that, oh, next time when you meet somebody just in the bus, just quiet and, you know, reflecting, they're probably going through something that you have no idea of, and you you can't even imagine that person is going through or having that situation they had to deal with on the daily basis. But it is encouraging to hear women like you when you want to share your stories. We are just humbled to have you, just so you know. Now, please, your hand is up.
Charlene, I'm wondering how it is to because Kayla is 17, but her cognitive level is of a 3-year-old. Is that what you said?
I think there's something with the net.
The net, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Did somebody ask the question? Sorry, I thought it was my internet. I was just getting ready to move around the house.
Charlene, I wanted to know because I realized that kids who are of a certain age but are cognitively under that age struggle when they're in the same class with their equals, because the cognitive level doesn't match with the biological age. And so sometimes I wonder if it's a good system to have kids who have the biological age, but the cognitive age is different in the same class with kids who have, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I have a perfect example for that. Because I've been on both sides of that aspect. Now that Kayla's in, at a special school with more children that have disabilities. But when Kayla was in barneskolen, she was in a normal class from about, I want to say, 3rd grade to 7th grade. She was in a normal class. Maybe it was 2nd grade. I don't remember, but yeah. And actually what I did was I had made it my mission that each year, every time she got a new class, I would go into the classroom with all the normal kids and I would explain to them a little bit about Kayla without Kayla being there. I would explain to them about Kayla. And they knew who she was. She had been in class with them a little bit, but I'd asked the teachers, can I come in and talk to the kids a little bit? Because I didn't want her to get bullied. I didn't want them to make fun of her. And it actually turned out to be really good, because after that meeting, when those kids said, Kayla, when she gets uncomfortable, she can make horse sounds and she can go, nee, or she can bark at people, right? That's her comfort when she's kind of scared. So one of the kids actually asked me if it was contagious. If what she had was contagious, if they would all of a sudden start barking. And these are young kids that have never really been around, that have never really been around kids with disabilities, right? After that, the kids took so much better to her.
Yeah.
They accepted her for who she was, because I would rather them ask questions than go around wondering. Because when they wonder, then they just make up stuff. But when they ask questions, then there's nothing left to the unknown, right? And I'm a handball trainer. I train actually kids with disabilities. They're from the age of 14 to 40. You know what I mean? And I see a wide range of this group, right? And when the normal kids, when she was younger, finally took to her and accepted her for her, then it was fine. Now that she was in ungdomsskolen and she was in a special class, kind of secluded from the normal kids, I think some of the kids were kind of like, like, why is she doing that? You know what I mean? But when she's around her handball group, she feels like she can be herself. You know what I mean? And then she can kind of joke around and play and make the sounds and whatever else. So I think it's so different from what kids are taught. Like my youngest daughter, being around her sister, she's in 1st grade, and they were watching a Bli med dans, and there was a kid in a wheelchair, and one of the kids in my daughter's class said, "Oh, look at him, he's in a wheelchair." And my daughter turns around and goes, "He's just different, and that's okay." And I was like, that's what the teacher told me. You know what I mean? And I think that, so I take my youngest child to my handball practices so she can be around children with disability, because I think that if you have kids that can learn to accept difference, then it makes the world a better place. It gives me goosebumps, because I feel like I feel like people need to be more open. I feel like people need to be kinder.
Yeah.
I think that people need to stick up for other kids if they see a wrongdoing. And I've always told my daughter that, my youngest one, I'm like, if you see somebody being mean to another kid, you go over and tell them it's not okay. And that's just, we need people like that. And I think the only way to educate them is for them to be around people with disabilities and to
Thank
learn
you.
that it's not dangerous or that it's not contagious or that it's not, deadly, pretty much.
That's our takeaway for this evening. Because for those of us who don't have, you might try to explain to your kids, but like saying take them around, tell them they're just different. These things we who don't have kids with disability have to learn. We parents have to also talk to our children how they can relate to kids who are different. Because most of the time we talk about discrimination, racism, and all the other things that we can know about, but not these kind of things. We know they bullied, they are kicked, they are insulted. I have a colleague who is how do you call them? Lily short people, mini woman, like cut voxed persons. And one day we're in lunch and she was just telling us that when she goes on the B banner, people will just be mocking her and saying things. And I never thought about it. I was like, and I was so brokenhearted to hear her very Dikti, colleague, does her work and she's been a father to me, like father, when I was in the work, training me and everything. And I was like, I could never imagine that people will mock her because she's who she is. And then she was telling her how we can, let other people know that it's not okay, it's not fine. But most of the time we ignore, we don't care because we don't find ourselves in that situation. So thank you for saying that. We take our children around and teach them this kind of things.
When people stare, I mean, it's normal to look at something that's not, you know what I mean? That's not what you see normally. You know what I mean? I can't say that's different, but it's normal to be curious. But it's another thing to be mean. And I think I've seen both sides of it. And that's why I think it's so important. Like I said, especially with my youngest, maybe she can teach her friend. Maybe she can inspire somebody else to be kind and stick up for somebody that's not like them,
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll open the floor for more questions. Please, if anybody wants to ask a question, this is the opportunity. If you want to type your question in the chat, kindly do so. And they are here. They will answer
Yeah,
us.
Sam has this.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's just a reflection, right? But for me, I think it's so sad given Norway and its credentials and how it's perceived outside. And then hearing your experience and to think that most efforts is by yourself. There is a system that is intended to help and to support and to be there for you. But then again, it's a struggle to go through the bureaucracy and get that help. And start thing is that in your, submission, you can see that over and over, most of all, your concern was timely intervention. And it seems like if you had not put in much effort, then it would have been delayed. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, if not for your education, how much more for those that have no education, have education and are poor? Can have no confidence. And you can see that even for this, level of support you've gotten is because of your courage, your confidence. How many of, most of us immigrants or have this confidence to withstand and to argue out their cases, even with the idea of, knowing that they have the rights and not. I've been reading, since we started, I've been reading, and you also mentioned about your child going to school. And in one project that was done by Erasmus, and they talk about integration and they talk about inclusion. And normally integration is what the state will offer you everyone fairly. But then they explain that inclusion must consider appropriate, offer that meets the needs of the child. And so I'm thinking, if your child goes to a school and is placed in a special need class, but at the same time, is not given the right support that they need, it's very difficult. So you ask the child, how are you integrating in the school? Do you feel included? And it's so difficult for me to even,
Well, if I can just say something real quick,
I-
not only,
I-
with her disability, but her father makes sure that he tells her that she might be treated differently because she doesn't look like her mommy. My husband's mixed, right? African American, right? And so she's also mixed, and he's like, Kayla, and it's hard for her to understand because she doesn't get it. You know what I mean? She's got curly, Bruce at the hoa. Like she looks a lot like her dad and looks nothing like her mommy. And he's like, Kayla, people might make fun of you because, so I think that's something that I was kind of, I wasn't sure that we should go that route. But then again, from his experiences being here in Norway, he's like, um, one drop, of black and you're black, like the Norwegians are cold. This is what my husband's telling me. They're cold people, and they're not going to treat me the same way that they treat you. And I think that also because of the language barrier, he doesn't speak Norwegian. He only speaks English. And him being of a different race, he's trying to put that into his children now, so that way they're prepared for it. Disability or no disability, you know what I mean? Because the world is a mean place. It doesn't, we still have racism and hate and all different types of things. And he's gotten nasty looks, you know what I mean? Because of his skin color. So I can only imagine what the generation growing up now today and having all these devices and an easier way to be mean and to bully people because of their differences, makes it a lot harder on us parents to protect and educate them before they get integrated into wolves. And I hate to call them wolves, but children can be really mean, So, yeah, I think, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
it's
nice.
difficult.
It's easier to grasp it when you put it like that. They are cold. Sometimes we don't want to be blunt. We don't want to put it the way it should be put, but it is true.
It's
It is
true. I
absolutely
first came
true.
here
They are
and
just cold.
us, us Americans, we're used to holding the door. If people are walking behind us, we say please and thank you. We
Yeah.
know our manners. We
Yeah.
treat our elders with respect. And when I came to Norway, I was coming out of Galleria and I got a door slammed right in my face. And I was like, well, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, but that's just, my friend has friends over. They don't even say please or thank you. They don't use their manners because they're not taught that. And how can children that are going to be integrated into a school system, you know what I mean, raised by cold people, how can they learn to be loving and understanding and caring and accept others for who they are? And I'm not trying to be mean by any
No.
means. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying it how I feel it is. And it's a scary place.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, when we first moved here, I had heard that here there is much more of a push towards integration, and so she might not get a spot in the special school that she's in, which is Tveiterås, by the way. She and I was terrified of her being in classrooms with, with just regular kids, who are little animals, like, yeah. And now I just wish I had had more opportunities for her to be around other children, since she's an only child and everything. And and here it's so like cold and wet all the time. Like I used to in the States bring her around the playgrounds a lot more. And here there's like the kids just don't play outside in the playgrounds like that, you know. So I do wonder how it would have been for her if she had been in like a more normal class, but then hearing your experiences of she probably would have been in a special dialing anyway. And that's still what we're going to do in Vida Regoenda. So I haven't actually changed my mind on, you know, like as far as that goes. But I do kind of feel like it's a shame for the other kids. Like I feel like it's a shame for the kids that they don't get that exposure, which is so necessary. And I see the kids, like kids will just stop in the middle of the street, you know, and just stare, you know. And it's always like I always try to welcome that, actually, you know, and just welcome questions and everything. So yeah, it's a weird thing to have come here, been a bit scared by this integration, the concept, and then kind of find out that it's not really happening anyway, like, you know, over here. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Interesting. Integration is
interesting.
happening, but inclusion is a problem. Integration is happening, but inclusion, where people are able to, you know, fit in within, you know, within their space, and with how far they can be able to tolerate the activities at the school and all that, it's a problem. It's a real challenge. And they are, I mean, there has been a call for researchers to look into disability in Europe. And this is really going on, and they have found out that this inclusion is a big issue that is going on. So it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge in Europe, but I hope things will get better.
Yeah, I don't want to scare too much, like the parents who might be here listening. I do feel like people are trying here, you know, and in from what I've learned, like having an education now in Vernaplied, uh, the theories are there, you know, the thought processes are there. It's still just so complicated to put it into practice. But I at least feel like it is on a whole a society that is doing its best, you know. So and there I do think we should probably talk about some of the more like practical what do you have to do, where, you know, who should you talk to, sort of things. So if I could just run down that, there is
Sure.
there is BOOP for if you have if your child has some psychological or cognitive problems. They're the ones to contact. You can go through your fastläge first, for example. And I never went through BOOP, so I don't actually know what the process is there. But there's habilitating, where you will get like every year a follow-up with an ergotherapist, a social worker, a pedagogue, and a physical therapist, and a doctor. And those are like, you definitely want to try to have your like questions kind of all put in a row if you end up getting habilitating. That's for people who have many different issues long term. So let's see, you can get help with transportation. You can get a TT-kort for recreational things. So you can apply for that if you have trouble transporting your child places. You can also get help with a taxi. You can get a støttekontakt in theory to help your child to do social things or activities and stuff like that. That's a couple of hours every week. But the problem there is that it's someone you have to kind of recruit yourself. And a lot of times, like Charlene was saying, it'll be a student or something like that. So there's a lot of trouble actually trying to nail one down. You do have right to tilrettelagt. What's that? Tilrettelagt.
Yeah. They understand.
What was it? Yeah,
Tilrettelagt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tilrettelegging in schools, so you have a right to that. So if you don't get into the into a special program or school, you still need the child will still need to get tilrettelegging. So that could be an individual person, that could be changing the environment. So these are things that you have a right to. And it's important to keep in mind the things you have a right to, so that's the important thing. It can feel frustrating that you have to kind of figure some of these things out and that you have to fight for them. But as long as you have a right to it, you can fight for it. I think that it's very helpful to try to come in contact with other parents of kids with special needs, and especially Norwegian parents, if you can, if you can get it. So, because they will often know the ins and outs of this sort of thing. You can also, if your child is in a wheelchair, you can get help getting a car with wheelchair access. You can get help getting a driver's license. Let's see.
You have Nav Hjelpemiddelsentral, where you can go. You also have the forvaltningsenhet, where that you can get one person to kind of help you navigate through the system as well. And then you have Barn- and Familiehjelpen. You can go to your local kontor, and they have often courses for not just children with disabilities, but normal children as well, for parents to go to. And that was free. And then you also have the Familiekontor to get on the parent side of it. You know what I mean? If you're struggling or you have a spouse and you guys can't, you know what I mean, around the children, you have the Familiekontor, which is also free.
I stand to be corrected though. But I think there's also cash for parents who have children with disability, and as a result cannot work 100%. Maybe they have reduced.
Yes, hjelpestønad. You can get hjelpestønad depending on the level of need and your own need. You can also get help with fra Husbanken.
Yeah, grunnstønad for
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah, grunnstønad, that's it's a bit of a dream, but yes. Did you have grunnstønad?
I did for my son, but I didn't. They denied me for Kayla, which was shocking.
Yeah, so it's that will depend on the saks behandler, but yes, that is right. Grunnstønad. And also you can get bostøtte, so from the Husbanken. Let's see. You can get the individual coordinator at forvaltningsenheten can also arrange for ansvarsgrupper, so that various people who are involved in your child's services will meet all together, and that's supposed to get everybody on the same page once a year. Let's see. Oh, you can get ledsagerbevis. So that is if they want to do some sort of activity or something like that, you have a card, and then you who follows along with them do not have to pay for certain things. So that's very good. Let's see.
You have like activitetskort as well for children and or families that might not have the economics to be able to go and do things like the trampoline park or activities like that. You can also get those cards for free as well.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
so
Sam, your hand was up earlier. You still want to come in?
Yes. Oh, thanks. So this goes to both Ileana and Charlene, and thanks a lot for your time and sharing your experiences. So I'm also someone who is very much interested in children's play and the quality of it. So I just want to know, over the years, how have you managed their play? And for example, do you often get like play date from the normal children? And when they come, how do they manage the play? Do they come to the house? Do they invite the children over? And if they invite your children over, do you have to go with them, instructions to the other parents? Okay, so that's the question. Thanks a lot.
I can answer on from my experiences. It was a lot more play dates with other kids in her class that were normal when she was younger. It was a little bit maybe an ungdomsskolen, but I saw that kind of quickly died out, and it went like they just went their ways. They would it would be both ways. Kayla would go to their house and play. The first couple times I would be there, and then after it was comfortable enough and I knew the parents, then she could go by herself. They would come over here. And that helped a lot as well, because if you have just one kid that shows that it's okay, then their friends that they're friends with will also think it's okay. So, but now that she's like a teenager, like I, uh, it's not so much face to face anymore. It is not so much of play dates and people coming over. It's all on the internet. And that's the scariest part about it, because I really don't know if you want me to go into this, but the thing about it is she's talking to normal teenage boys and some older that she shouldn't be talking to. And they're talking about having different types of play dates. So that's scary, right? Very scary. Everything's through social media now. Everything, unfortunately. The only time that she gets to really play with other children is when we go to handball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, Ileana, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
yeah, well, with Ollie, it's yeah, that's not really worked out, like other than just like having friends that have kids, like nah. So that come over, but then there's not that much interaction with them because she's totally nonverbal and non-mobile and everything. So that's very difficult. But I do think that there are aktivitetscentre, just if you're interested in that sort of thing to look up. There's also a magazine. What's the name of the magazine that
Info, isn't it? Info?
yeah.
I think so.
Where they have activities. So that is something you can probably look it up online, but you can probably also like sign up for it. I get it from the school, but they have special activities, specialized, activities and groups and things like that. And there's also Barney Bean, if people don't know about that. So there you can find out what sort of activities are going on, just for everybody to go and join. And I have used that a lot, just to get her out there and doing things and seeing things and stuff like that. And yeah, so I this part I don't know, but I do think there is supposed to be an activitetscentre that you could contact to find out what's out there, to get some suggestions and stuff like that.
Habu also has some good suggestions, because they were telling me about like children with you know what I mean, that want to meet up. They have like a dance night once a month at a church or at a school or something, where they can meet, you know what I mean, and meet other children as well. So you can also ask other places like Habu or like Verwaltningseenheid, and they can give you a list of the activities that they have there.
Thank you so
Okay, so just a quick follow-up and I'm done. So in most of the cases that the children have to go and play, you didn't necessarily have to monitor them, right? Because what I'm wondering about is, if you have to monitor them and let's say the other children are coming, or you have to monitor them because they are special needs children. But if the normal children are coming without their parents, how were yours feeling? Like, you know, did they feel embarrassed or anything of that sort?
I haven't done any unmonitored activities with Ali. So, yeah.
I think it really depends on the level of disability. You have a lot of children that have lighter disabilities, and then you have the ones that are moderate. Um, uh, and again, when they were younger, that was when we did more of the parents, you know what I mean, getting together and everything else like that. I don't think mine was embarrassed. I hope not. but she never said it, at least. I think the more support that they have, knowing that they have a comfort next to them of somebody who they feel safe with, and the parents are with them, then I think that that does help a lot. But as far as like small play dates where they go and jump on the neighbor's trampoline or whatever, stuff like that, I wouldn't follow them over and watch them jump. I would just let her go. But then again, she's now 17, so they really don't do too much of that anymore. But yeah.
I would say then it's just important to look for signs of whether they've enjoyed themselves, to ask them to, communicate with them, try to get some details like how did it go and everything. And don't try to then force them, like if it's the same social group and they seem very like they don't want to be involved in with those people or something like that. Just to kind of look out for signs.
And I wanted to say something real quick too, because this also kind of touches on acceptance. Sometimes family members aren't always accepted either, or accepting of their grandchildren, the way that they look, their weight, whatever. I have that situation personally where it's a family member. And I also talked to Habu about it as well, and was like, can you set up a meeting with me and this other family member to kind of educate them on you know what I mean? So I think that if as well, doesn't have much to do with the visit of friends, but I just wanted to put that in there, that if you can also ask people that work in the system if they can help. You have also something called Frambu, which is an organization for children with disabilities, and that also integrates the family members, the sisters, the brothers, all that stuff as well. So that's a really good resource as well.
Thank you so much. Now, you have the last say.
I have just one question to Charlene about.
I can't hear. It's hard to hear you. Sorry.
How do you monitor Taylor's social media?
Her social media?
Yeah, because she's not at the level with her mates. Do you go around and are anxious if she might be exploited, if she might take pictures of herself, and so I'm just wondering what strategies you have with regards to the social media aspect.
I've always felt that as long as they're under my roof and I pay their phone bill, I should have access to their phones. and I want their passwords. I go into Kayla's phone. I check her computer. I've taken away her iPad. I've bought her a watch that she can call on, which she refused to wear. I check her phone regularly, and I go through all the messengers on I went through TikTok, Instagram, Messenger, and it's so weird for a child who can't really read like that. She knows certain words. And she knows how to respond to certain words, and she loves that attention as well. I think at one point in our lives, we all love that attention. You know what I mean? That has been probably the hardest struggle now as her being a teenager, is the phone. And I have cried. I have reached out for so much help. Because like I said, she might think that it's a cute boy on the other side of that picture. But when I went into her Snap one time, I found that there was a 60-year-old man that lived really close to her best friend that she had on Snapchat. And that's scary. And I've had to make police reports. I've had to constantly stay on top of what she is doing. And I've had a dialogue with her teachers at school. They had to have her phone. I went periods, weeks on end, where I took her phone completely away, but then she couldn't take the bus because she had no way of communicating with me if something happened. So then I would drive her and pick her up from school, which hindered me from working. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, but I've always said that, the money is not important. It's her and the rest of the family. And I have to do what I have to do. So going through their phone, I feel like is so important. I've been a part of FO at the schools. And I hear so many Norwegian parents, no, my child would never do that. And no, I can't go through their phone. That's their privacy and this and that. And I'm like, you would be really surprised what you find in their phones from everything. You know what I mean? It's insane. So we still have the phone struggle. And I tell her to, it's good night. And if I come in and you're on your phone, I'm taking it. And she understands that. But it is a very big struggle. And I think that it takes a village of people to be able, teachers, stöttekontakt, parents, aunts, you know what I mean? Especially when you have also people in your family that you can't depend on, it takes just even more. So I would definitely, that phone thing is going to be an issue until she moves out. And it probably will still be an issue. But I will say that it is really important too, that if, as far as the whole getting a fullmakt, as a parent of a child with a disability, who has some understanding, but not too much, I found out, like once the child is 12 years old, now all of a sudden you don't have any say in what they talk to the doctors about, or you don't have any, you have nothing. And when they're 16, you definitely don't have anything. So it's really important to make sure that you get a doctor to sign off, you know what I mean? If you feel like a child isn't able to handle those certain doctor's appointments or those certain things that come through the Hälsonåga and all that stuff, it's really important that you get a fullmakt to have complete insight into their dialogues and their meetings. And further, when they're 18, you can apply 3 months before they turn 18 to be their valga, where you have control over their finances and can make sure that they're spending their money the right way and doing the right things. So those types of things are also really important, I think, to be aware of. And you kind of need to do it before it's too late.
Too late.
I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Eliana, would you like to add something to that?
No, I don't. That sounds really harsh. Like, that's a terrifying challenge. That's all I have to say. Like, yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
I have a normal teenager, and I never check his phone or anything. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I leave that to his dad to do that job because he's a boy. I don't go doing that. But he was also like, oh, you have to learn to trust them. And if he says he's not doing anything bad, anything, then you trust them, and then it's okay. And then I'm like, many times I'll say good night, 10 o'clock, and then I go down and then listen, and he's still there. Click, click, click.
Mhm.
And I say,
Yep.
you see, but these are some of the challenges we have to deal with as parents. We are so grateful having you, Charlene and Iliana. It's been an interesting discussion, very informative and rich in learning. I've learned so much. Even though I don't have a child with that, I'm looking on the other side and reflecting on the other side. Sometime I worked a few days with a special needs school. I stood at that down there, and I went there and I was like, wow. Um, I felt so emotional. So I don't know, but it was like a different feeling. And I was happy to be there, to help out. But after 1 week, they called me back and I told my husband, you know what? I don't think I can go back there again, even though I really, really want to go there and help. But it's something, it's a whole different atmosphere. And you being on the other side, and I've never talked to my kids about how they should treat special needs kids or how they should relate to them, but now this evening I'm thinking this should be the next conversations I'm having with them, to see from the other side and how they can respect them and give a helping hand, fight for them. If somebody is hurting them, you can stand up for them and stuff like that. And we really admire your courage, both of you, and the strength. We just want you to know that you have a new family here. We are full fan, full supportive of what you're doing. If you need any help, please get in touch with Na. She'll call us and we'll be there. If you need people to do some cleaning for you to take a break, I'll volunteer. I'll come and do some household chores and you can just take a break and have
And
some,
I think this is
have
what
some
we
time out.
stand for, right, Sister Gifty?
Is that what?
This is what Passion for Difference stands
Yes,
for.
yes, yeah, that's what we are.
Yes.
What we are for. There are some families here. We want to thank all of you for joining us. We see 14, but I'm sure we are more than 14. There are 2 and 3 sitting in groups watching and listening. So thank you so much. We've recorded. We will edit a bit. We will send it to both of you to see if it's okay before we publish it on our social media channels for the rest of the group to see. Thank you
I
so
just want
much.
to say real quick, thank you so much. Everything happens for a reason. So thank you so much for having me. Anytime, if you want another meeting, please feel free to reach out. I'm an open book when it comes to my situation. I think the more we talk about it, the more we can educate, the more we can grow as a civilization. And I think learning from others, you know what I mean, is the best way to grow.
Thank
So
you.
both good and bad.
Thank you. I think the
Okay,
next
I
time
just
we'll be
want to,
having
excuse me.
you. No, we are done
I
with
wanted
questions
to,
and
okay.
answers now. The next time we'll be having a physical meeting and it will be at our local and you can come and, give the full house maybe another section of this one. So thank you
Send me
so
the
much.
invite. I'll be there.
Sure, 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 sure. Thank
Yes,
you,
thank you
Na,
so
for
much.
the good
Thank
job.
you so much.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Parenting, challenges of raising children in no way on your own. I bring to you the solution you